Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Asia Newsline. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Wednesday, the 20th of July. Wickremesinghe elected Sri Lanka's president. Protesters vow to fight on to change system. Cloudburst wreaks havoc in India's Jammu and Kashmir. Several structures washed away. And Pakistan's ruling alliance refuses to buckle under PTI pressure to hold early elections. And now for all the details. Sri Lanka's acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe won a vote in Parliament on Wednesday to be the next president until 2024, taking over from former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who resigned after fleeing the country last week. While his supporters celebrated, protesters demanding a system overhaul over the whole economic crisis vowed they will continue their agitation.
Sri Lankan lawmakers voted acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe as the new president on Wednesday, hoping he would pull the country out of a crippling economic and political crisis, days after President Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled the island nation following a public uprising. Wickremesinghe garnered 134 votes in the 225-member parliament, despite public anger with the ruling elite. The other candidate in Wednesday's contest, ruling party lawmaker Dallas Alaha Peruma, received just 82 votes. A third candidate, Anurakumara Disanayaka, got just 3. Following his victory, 73-year-old Wickremesinghe, who has served as Prime Minister a record 6 times, said that Sri Lanka is in a very difficult situation and there are big challenges ahead.
මේ රට අද තියෙන්නේ ඔබතුමාට කියන්න උවමනා නැහැ කොච්චර අමාරු තත්වයකද කියලා. ආර්ථික වශයෙන් රටේ තරුණ තරුණියන් ක්‍රමයේ වෙනසක් ඉල්ලනවා. අපිට විදේශ වශයෙන් අද ලෝකේ ප්‍රශ්න ගණනාවක් තියෙනට පැටලෙන්නේ නැතුව අපි යන්න තියෙන්නේ. ඉදිරියට යන්න අපි අලුත් වැඩසටහනක් ඇති කරන්න තියෙනවා. ජනතාව අපෙන් ඉල්ලන්නේ පරණ දේශපාලනේ නෙමෙයි. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව එකට එකතු වෙලා ඒ වැඩ කටයුතු කරන එකයි.
While Wickremesinghe's supporters celebrated with songs and dance, the parliament's selection of him as next president came as a deep disappointment for many protesters at the secretariat and adjoining protest camp in capital Colombo. They vowed to continue their protests until a complete system overhaul, blaming Wickremesinghe to be an ally of Rajapaksa family.
We won't back down. We won't let this be. We won't settle for any less. Because at the same time, this is exactly what we're fighting for. We're fighting to not settle for any less, and to not be comfortable in the uncomfortable, but fight for what we deserve.
Neighbouring India said, as a close friend, it will continue to be supportive of the quest of the people of Sri Lanka for stability and economic recovery through democratic means. Shrinking foreign reserves have slashed imports of fuel, food and medicine in Sri Lanka. Headline inflation hit 54.6% last month, and the central bank has warned that it could rise to 70% in coming months.
On the third day of the monsoon session, lawmakers of India's opposition parties, including Congress, on Wednesday held a joint protest against rising inflation and the GST, goods and services tax rates hike on a number of essential commodities. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, Mallikarjun Kharge and others were present during the protest in front of Mahatma Gandhi's statue in the parliament premises. The lawmakers raised slogans against Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government for increasing price of domestic LPG cylinders, GST on several food items like milk and curd. They demanded a rollback of the hike in GST rates on commodities. Later, parliament proceedings were disrupted several times after opposition parties protested in both houses of the parliament, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, to press for urgent discussions on issues like price rise, GST and the Agnipath scheme, the government's new military recruitment scheme. Both houses were later adjourned over opposition uproar. Several structures, including a school, was washed away and many houses were damaged after a cloudburst wreaked havoc in Doda town of India's northern Jammu and Kashmir territory on Wednesday. Meanwhile, heavy spell of rainfall in capital New Delhi brought relief from scorching heat but led to waterlogging at many areas.
A cloudburst wreaked havoc in Doda town of India's northern Jammu and Kashmir territory, triggering flash floods in the region in which a school and several other structures were washed away while many houses were damaged, officials said on Wednesday. Floodwaters inundated a tourism office as well. Doda's District Commissioner Vikas Sharma said that no loss of life was however reported. Record-breaking rain in some regions with the onset of monsoon in the country has highlighted the challenges the country faces as it tries to adapt to climate change.
डैमेजेस भी हुआ है उसकी पूरी असेसमेंट काम तक सभी मोबिलाइज हो गए हैं फील्ड स्टाफ हमारा जहाँ जहाँ माली नुकसान हुआ होगा उसकी कंप्लीट असेसमेंट हो जाएगी बाकी किसी की ह्यूमन लाइफ की कोई लॉस नहीं रिपोर्ट हुआ है.
Meanwhile, heavy rains that lashed national capital New Delhi on Wednesday brought respite from oppressive humidity and heat but led to traffic congestion and waterlogging at many places. The India Meteorological Department has predicted the city can expect mostly cloudy skies and light rain over the next 3 days.
In news from Pakistan, Pakistan's coalition government has rejected former Premier Imran Khan's call for early general elections, citing the country's fragile economic situation. The ruling alliance also vowed to explore all possible ways to save the post of Punjab Chief Minister held by Hamza Shehbaz, son of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, after the defeat in the Punjab by polls.
Pakistan's 9-party ruling alliance has rejected ousted Premier Imran Khan's call for early general elections, refusing to buckle under his opposition PTI party's pressure, citing the country's fragile economic situation. In a meeting on Tuesday following the crushing defeat in the Punjab by-polls on Sunday, the coalition partners decided to put their weight behind Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to explore all possible ways to save his son Hamza Shehbaz's office of the Punjab Chief Minister from the opposition PTI PMLQ candidate Chaudhry Parvez Ilahi in July 22 Chief Minister's election. The meeting came to conclusion that the Shehbaz Sharif-led government in the centre should complete its tenure for one major reason. It had taken harsh economic decisions and paid the price by facing defeat in the Punjab by-polls, senior PMLN leader Khwaja Saad Rafiq told a news conference.
वफाकी हुकूमत इंशाल्लाह अपनी टर्म पूरी करेगी और मुल्क की बेहतरी के लिए तमाम इक़दामात बरूए कार लाएगी. इस सिलसिले में इबहम फैलाने से और शोशे छोड़ने से गुरेज किया जाना चाहिए.
PTI chairman Imran Khan has demanded free and fair general elections, blaming he was ousted in April through a conspiracy by the US and leaders of the incumbent government. His party leaders have termed the Punjab poll results as referendum for Khan's narrative against the government.
Moving on. Former Prime Minister of Pakistan-administered Kashmir, Raja Farooq Haider Khan, has voiced concern over rising corruption and discrimination by the PTI-led government in the illegally occupied region. He blamed irregularities and said funds allocated to the poor are not being used for their welfare.
Raja Farooq Haider Khan, former Prime Minister of Pakistan-administered Kashmir, has expressed anger over rising corruption, lawlessness and inflation in the illegally occupied region ruled by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government. Over the past few months, residents have held massive protests against power outages, black marketing and shortage of food supply in the region, but their voices remain unheard. Khan, a senior PMLN leader, said his government had passed a law to provide aid to widows and the poor people amid rising inflation, but the present PTI-led regime and its officials have kept all the money for themselves and are living a luxurious life while ignoring the marginalized.
मसलन हमने एक कानून पास किया कि जो बेवा या तलाकशुदा खातून जो गुर्बत की सतह से नीचे है उसके कफालत हुकूमत करेगी. वो कानून भी बन गया, उसके ऊपर वो कमेटी भी बन गई. अब इन करोड़ों रुपए की गाड़ियां जो नई गाड़ियां सबके पास है, वो पैसे उधर दे देते हैं 18 करोड़ रुपया.
Locals have long blamed successive governments of ignoring their plight, while corruption and ignorance in the system have become major challenges for the growth of the illegally occupied region, leaving its future in dark.
Finding water in arid Afghanistan is virtually always a challenge, but a drop in the groundwater level in capital Kabul caused by overuse and drought is making it even more difficult for residents, especially the poor. The Ministry of Energy and Water asked the private sector and aid agencies to help it as water shortage threatens Kabul city.
Afghanistan's Ministry of Energy and Water has said that capital Kabul city is facing a water shortage crisis and the level of groundwater has dropped to 3.5 meters this year. The officials have asked the private sector and aid agencies to help the ministry in this regard, reports suggest. According to the ministry, the increase in population, high consumption of underground water and climate change are among the reasons that have made Kabul city face lower water levels now than ever before. Modern Kabul was originally planned to support about 1 million people, but is now home to more than 4 million according to US government estimates, with people fleeing violence and seeking jobs thronging into urban centers. Like Kabul, several other provinces are also facing water shortage crisis. In southern Kandahar province, 3 new dams are being built in an effort to ease an acute water shortage as a result of years of drought, which has affected the local agricultural production. The new dams are located in the province's Shah Walikot and Spil Boldak districts. Kandahar province is well known for its grapes and pomegranates, but their production has been badly affected by years of drought. The new 3 dams are being built on a river in the mountainous area other than the Argandhav River, from which the only reservoir, Dahla Dam, supply water to Kandahar, the largest city in Afghanistan's south, fetches water. Dahla Dam has now little water and water level in the Argandhav River has fallen and even cannot irrigate the farmland on its banks.
Local service providers including pony riders and owners and palanquin bearers are instrumental in smooth running of annual pilgrimage, the Amarnath Yatra in India's Jammu and Kashmir territory. With the pilgrimage to the Holy Cave Shrine underway, pony owners are happy as they are earning good money to support their livelihoods. With thousands of pilgrims making their way to the Amarnath Cave Shrine in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir territory dedicated to the Hindu god of destruction Lord Shiva, pony owners are jubilant to do good business during the month-long pilgrimage. Devout Hindus during the annual pilgrimage walk and proceed astride ponies or in palanquins to the cave, situated at an altitude of 3,800 meters, to pray at an ice stalagmite, which they regard as symbol of Lord Shiva. Pony owners are ecstatic as they are earning good money to support their livelihoods during the Amarnath Yatra, which began after 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic. Many were out of business during the COVID-19 induced lockdown.
बहुत खुश है इस साल 2 साल के बाद यहाँ पर यात्रा शुरू फिर हो गया है बहुत खुशी है हम इनको बहुत सेवा करता है इस साल कोई टेंशन नहीं है
Pilgrims avail the services of ponies and palanquins during the pilgrimage as both routes leading to the shrine are very tough to tread as they fall in hilly terrains. Devotees lauded the service providers for making the journey hassle-free.
विश्वास नहीं हो रहा है यहाँ तक पहुँच गए हैं और सुविधा के मामले में तो यहाँ पर पूछिए ही मत क्योंकि हर तरह की सुविधा है घोड़े वाले हैं डोली वाले हैं किसी की कोई भी उम्र हो कोई भी उसकी हेल्थ के हिसाब से कोई भी वो हो लेकिन कोई दिक्कत नहीं है आराम से आप पहुँच सकते हैं
This year, Amarnath Yatra commenced on June 30 and will conclude on Raksha Bandhan, Hindu sibling festival in August. Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/Asia Newsline and follow us on Twitter @Asia Newsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.